The following program is made possible by the friends and partners of Creation Today.
Welcome to the Creation Today Show. I'm your host, Eric Hoven, and I'm joined by the president of Ask or Think Ministries, Ben Shetler.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you for tuning in. A decision I promise you will not regret. We have Ralph Stre, director of Genesis 3D movie, going to be on the show today.
You are going to apologize today.
Answering Mr. Richard Dawkins.
I am going to be making the Grand Canyon in the studio today.
Do you have dynamite that I don't know about?
Maybe so, but we're going to use water. We won't go there. It's going to be a great show. Stick around.
Stick around.
Welcome to the Creation Today Show, where we bring together interviews with experts and solid Bible teaching. Your hosts affirm the ultimate authority of God's Word, the truth of creation, and why it matters to you.
Should Christians be outraged by the Noah movie and other films? While I'm glad that Hollywood has recognized the millions of Christians worldwide that they typically criticize and ignore, I want to give you some things to think about when it comes to this new trend in Hollywood movies. Consider the context of these movies. Very few Hollywood movies make true stories, and even the true stories are usually inspired by real events. However, the majority of films are just plain fictional stories. People go to the movies and expect to see a good yarn spun. That's old school for fictional story, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with fictional stories. I like them. But what we need to understand is that people are expecting movies based on things that aren't true. The movies are filled with supernatural, superheroes, zombies, werewolves, vampires, Greek gods, and yes, even Captain America himself is fictional. When supernatural stories like Noah or the Son of God pop up next to these fictional accounts, is it possible that people might not treat what they're watching any differently? Is it possible that people consciously or subconsciously begin to question the reality of Bible stories when they're placed next to so much supernatural fiction? Listen to what one critic said about the Noah film.
The Christian filmmaker is also upset because he says, in the Bible, it wasn't written down what actually happened on the ark once they got on the ark. To claim that you know that is sheer ignorance.
Yeah. Is that Aronofsky said it?
No, the Christian filmmaker who was criticizing him. Come on, dude. The whole thing is ignorance. The whole thing is ignorance.
What he meant by the whole thing is ignorance is that the entire idea of a worldwide flood is mythology, not reality. Could it be fair to say that movies like The Son of God and Noah cause people to doubt the reality of the supernatural events of the Bible when those miracles and characters are told in the identical context of superheroes, vampires, zombies, and werewolves? It's something at least worth considering.
Captain America is fictional.
Sorry to break the news to you, Ben.
Really, some good things to think about there, and we have a lot more we want to think about because we have with us the director of the Genesis movie.
The Genesis
3D
movie. I wanted to throw that in there.
Ralph Stre is with us, and Ralph, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Eric, that was a great thought. I had a question for you, Ralph, to get us going, okay? And that is, there's Christians out there that say, we have to go and support Noah and the Son of God and all of these movies because if we don't, Hollywood's going to stop making them. What do you think about that?
It's a great question, and it's one of the reasons why I'm, making the Genesis 3D movie along with Eric. Cecil B. DeMille, back 50 years ago now, used to make tons of Hollywood epic Christian films. And I think that his heart was really in the right place. Mm-hmm. He really wanted to make films that were true to the Bible, they were accurate, they were historically correct, and that they were epic, adventurous, awesome movies that everybody wanted to see. Yeah, they were blockbusters. I mean, he brought down the house every time he'd make a movie.
Yeah.
And but I don't think that Noah, Darren Aronofsky or Ridley Scott for that matter, he's about to make a movie called Exodus.
Wow.
I don't think that these guys have the same intentions. I'm not sure if it's just trying to maybe step out into a different direction or maybe make more money or whatever their motives are. But I don't think it's for biblical accuracy.
Hang on, this brings up an interesting point because you were sharing something with me earlier. You said, I wonder if they're doing this, and it was kind of a unique thought on the sneakiness of what they might be doing. Can you share that real quick?
Yeah, well, here's what I was saying is I was wondering if they were I don't really remember.
You don't remember your No, what if you said, you told me.
I had a question in my mind.
Okay, I'll come back to that.
So
I'll share the sneaky thought.
Okay. Or
maybe you'll remember.
Because I had a
dying
question.
to know now.
Well, this is what I was wondering. I think, or at least what I was thinking, is when Mel Gibson made Passion of the Christ, I think Hollywood went cha-ching. There is a group of people that we've been missing out. And Ralph, what do you think about this? I think that if Christians said, you know what, I'm not going to go see a movie that is not biblically accurate, that Hollywood will not just say, oh, we'll just ignore Christians, but they'll go back to the drawing boards and they'll make their wallets make that decision and go, you know what, we need to make a movie that has biblical accuracy. What do you think? Do you think Hollywood will do that?
You know, either that or maybe they would just step completely out of trying to make Christian films altogether, which honestly is what I would prefer to see. You know, I think it's kind of our fault why this is happening, because Christians haven't been making big Christian epic movies.
That's a good point.
And, you know, if there was already a Noah movie out, let's say a few years after The Passion came out, you know, there wouldn't be as much of an interest to see his version of Noah, which now, compared to the other one that, let's say, we would have made as Christians, everybody would know it wouldn't be very biblically accurate. And so I don't think people would really want to see it. I think the reason why Christians are going to go see it is really because what other choice do they have? There's nothing else really out there like that.
Were you there yesterday when we were talking about your mission for making movies? Discuss that a little bit, because I thought that was just
Well,
cool.
I tell you what, we've got to take a break here.
No!
So I hate to make you wait for this and why Ralph is doing this.
Cliffhanger.
But we got to take a break, and then I want to share that sneaky thought that I thought was really cool too. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, welcome back. Over the break, Eric refreshed me, and now I remember
Hang on, I
exactly.
refreshed you?
Eric
refreshed your memory.
my memory.
Thank you. Just wanted to get that clear right off the bat. All right?
Eric refreshed my memory, and I remembered what I was going to say. But before I get to that, Ralph, we were talking about kind of some of your passion and the reason why you wanted to make films. And would you share that with us?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's a great question, and it's one that I really struggled with for a while, because I thought, you know, here I am, I'm sitting on this desk and I'm making this, you know, movie, and God, is this really what you want me to be doing? Like, shouldn't I be in Africa somewhere, like tangibly helping people?
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a revelation one day, and God really showed me that, you know, we're supposed to imitate Jesus. And what did Jesus do when he taught the masses? He told parables.
Old stories.
Yes,
good.
parables are stories, and so he used that as his venue to deliver a message, sometimes even a difficult message, but people could break it down easier and understand it. And I thought, well, that's really what we're doing, you know, very similar.
And a true story at that.
Yeah,
And while it's
exactly.
good to go to Africa, it's also God's called you to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize this, there are over 400,000 churches in America and 6,000 first-run movie theaters. I think the work you're doing is going to have a huge impact.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't negate the church. It's just in addition to.
Right,
So
right.
you think of where the influence is happening now. That's where
Well,
a lot
that's
of
that's
influence is
just it.
taking place.
Influence, right? What's influencing the world? It's movies.
Yeah.
You know, above politicians, celebrities are the most famous, popular people in the world, and sadly, they're the most listened to people. You know, and so that's where people are really being influenced. And so, you know what? That's what we're here to do. Is we're here to to try to reach out to the people by using what's arguably the best venue today to
Right.
reach them.
So here was the question.
Yes. This is
Is
good.
Hollywood mocking our views and milking our wallets at the same time? And this was my question, especially with Noah, and I think some of these other movies are in different categories, but Noah is a long ways away. And I wonder if some Hollywood insiders, Eric, didn't just sit down and go, okay, can we make money off Christians and make fun of them at the same time? I just wonder. Is this a question?
That is a good thought. That is a very good thought. What do you think about that, Ralph?
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, no kidding.
I wouldn't.
You look at what's happening. Old films that have done that, like you said, have stuck to it. But man, I'd love to continue this, but Ralph, we're out of time
Good
because
stuff. Thanks, Ralph.
Ben is actually about to apologize. Now I don't know if you can stick around, but we're going to
Well, it's
actually let
about time.
Ben go over and
over there.
apologize right now. Hey, if you want more on Ralph and what he's doing, you can be found at genesismovie.com, which is
Yeah.
obviously a great website, and see the incredible work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, if you don't have an explanation for how it all began, then why do you say that Darwinian evolution explains the origins of the world? It's either one or the other. Either you have an explanation for the origins of the world, or you don't. Taking the idea of our origin further in a different interview, Richard Dawkins deals with the hypothesis that our origin could be explained by a sophisticated alien life form coming from another dimension and planting the seeds of life for our origins. But he puts this very interesting qualifier on that outside alien force.
This alien intelligence would itself have had to have evolved by something like the same slow, gradual, incremental process as we evolved by.
In this hypothetical scenario, whoever started this world would still have had to have evolved from something. Well, you may have answered the question of origins for humankind, but you still have not answered the ultimate question of origins. You have only infinitely delayed your answer by saying, well, someone created us, then someone created them, then someone created them, then... Enough is enough. If Darwinian evolution only claimed to be an explanation of progression, something small turned into something big, then at least you are making an honest claim. But they claim evolution explains origins. What is interesting is further into this interview, Richard Dawkins comes right out and admits that evolution is not a theory of origins. Here's what he says.
When Darwinian scientists explain the origin and evolution of life, what we're doing is explaining the arising of organized complexity and intelligence and the capacity to design. We're explaining how that arises from very simple beginnings, by slow, gradual steps, by slowly mounting a staircase. I call it in another book, Climbing Mount Improbable.
Well, if your theory of origins doesn't answer the question of origins, then not only have you not resorted to magic or the supernatural, you haven't postulated anything. Atheists from Bill Nye to Richard Dawkins may be willing to give you a convoluted theory of lesser to greater, but they refuse to give a legitimate theory to the actual origins of life. That is because when we talk about origins, all things point to God. I have a book here, Pages and Words. While you may disagree with what's inside the book, you assume that something of greater intelligence constructed the words in it. DNA is such a complex code that it points to having an origin of something greater, not lesser. When people like Richard Dawkins begin to talk about actual origins, those origins point to an outside force coming in and starting something. Because we weren't there, we cannot know for sure, and we cannot come to God without faith. It is my desire that Richard Dawkins and every atheist understand that the greatest answer to origins isn't, I don't know, but rather, I know God. And that's my apology.
Ben, we've got a great science experiment. I'm going to need your help over here, so come on over. We are going to make the Grand Canyon. Now, I was just there last year leading a tour. You were just at the Grand Canyon.
Just a few weeks ago. Amazing, beautiful place.
Now, let me
I love
ask
the
you,
Grand Canyon.
when you were there, did you see any signs or plaques that discuss the idea of millions of years?
There are signs all over the place
There
that talk
are.
about millions of years.
It is an indoctrination station, and over 2 million people a year are getting indoctrinated when they go to the Grand Canyon. And many more are getting indoctrinated from the public school textbooks. Here's what they say in the textbooks. They say the Grand Canyon was formed by the Colorado River as it cut through layer upon layer of rock over millions of years. Now, I don't think this is true, and I think the facts tell us a different story. Let me give you the facts. If you were to build a dam across the Grand Canyon, a huge lake would form. It would cover several states. Here's what's going on. This area of land called the Kaibab Uplift is what the Grand Canyon runs right through. Now, the Colorado River, which they say formed the Grand Canyon, starts at 2,800 feet above sea level. Then it goes through the canyon, and by the time it comes out the bottom, it's dropped by 1,000 feet. Here's the problem. The ground that it goes through is 7,000 feet above sea level.
So how does it go from here up and over and then back down again? That's the question.
That is the question. This is going to give us our demonstration. This
Okay.
area of land right here is going to represent the 2,800 foot above sea level where the Colorado River starts.
Okay.
Down here is going to represent 1,800 feet above sea level. This middle area of sand right here is going to represent the Kaibab Uplift. This area of land right here, the white stuff, the snow, okay?
So at the very end of the flood, we have just this little bit remain. Most of the water's gone
Yeah,
off
there
by
was
now.
a lot more water.
Right.
Most of that's what Psalm 104 says, that the valleys sank down and the mountains rose up. So water has already rushed off.
It's already rushed
to
off.
fill in.
So we're at the end of the flood.
Yep,
We're
this is
filling
like the
water.
last little trickle. So
Okay.
right at the end of the flood, most of the water's come off. A lake had formed behind the Kaibab Uplift.
Okay.
Once that lake got high enough, as the ice glaciers melted back, once it got high enough to breach the Kaibab Uplift, it could form the Grand Canyon very, very quickly. The Grand Canyon is not evidence of a slow-moving river carving out the Grand Canyon. It's actually evidence of the flood. Ooh, let me get our Grand Canyon forming here. Okay, now as this canyon forms, you got a lake that's cutting through a dam, and it is extremely destructive on a large scale. Anywhere there's been a breached dam, you'll notice extreme erosion very rapidly. And that's exactly what we see at the Grand Canyon.
Now, if a river cut through this, wouldn't it look the same way, Eric?
No, because if the Colorado River had done this over millions of years, the canyon would be even wider and the sides would be very sloped rather than steep. When you were there, they were steep, right?
Yeah, you walk up to the edge, you fall off and die. I mean, it's very steep.
That actually does happen. Now, I want to invite you guys to come on a tour and check this and many other evidences out of how the Grand Canyon formed. We're going to be walking right there on the edge, looking down. Now, I can keep water going through here all I want, but it's not going to carve away the rest of the Kaibab Uplift.
Right.
It's going to be a small trickle, just like the Colorado River is today.
In fact, there are many other proofs, not just the steep edge, that demonstrate what we're talking about right
Yes.
here. When we come back from the break, you
We
and
gotta
I,
wait?
we're
They gotta
going to talk.
wait?
They have to wait.
All
We're
right.
going to talk about it when you come back from the break.
More evidence is that the Grand Canyon was formed
Very quickly.
in the flood.
Not millions of years.
Join Eric Hovind, Russ Miller, and special guest Mark Spence from Way of the Master as you explore the absolute evidence for the worldwide flood. Learn how to share our faith in Christ with others more effectively and enjoy a vacation that will make memories for a lifetime. That's the Grand Canyon Tour, May 23rd through the 26th. For more information, visit www.creationtoday.org.
welcome back to the Creation Today show. You just saw an experiment that showed how the Grand Canyon would have formed very quickly rather than slowly over millions of years.
And there's many proofs of that, Eric. One of those is the many marine fossil layers that are found inside the Grand Canyon. Now, it would make sense that if just the bottom layer was filled with marine fossils, that would make sense. But you have every layer has marine fossils in it. It points to all of those things being laid down at one time, possibly in a catastrophic flood. In every layer, marine fossils.
If you go to the Grand Canyon, there are signs that are paid for by your tax dollars that say there is 1.2 billion years of missing strata. Now get this, Ben. They say that this 1.2 billion years of missing strata, it's gone. They say it was somehow washed away, washed away in a catastrophic event. Now, I don't know, what could that catastrophic event have been?
Washed away sounds like a
Possibly.
Possibly a flood. Well, Eric, when you are going down the Colorado River in those rafts with Russ Smith, you are going to look up...
Russ Miller.
Yes,
it's okay.
him too.
He can go by Smith.
I'm sorry. Russ Miller. When you're going down with Russ, you're going to look up and see about 20 feet of polished rock. Now, the reason for that is over a long period of time, water, when it runs over rocks, polishes it, makes it very beautiful. But if the Grand Canyon was formed by water moving slowly over millions and millions and millions of years, then the entire Grand Canyon would be polished rock. It's interesting, it's not. Because very possibly, it was laid down in a single catastrophic event, water moving quickly after the flood.
Could have been, possibly. Hey, not only that, we have the red wall limestone. This is a 900-foot layer thick piece of limestone.
Beautiful, too.
Incredible. Runs all the way from Las Vegas all the way to the Painted Desert. It's huge. Here's what's fascinating about it. All throughout this 900-foot layer, they find nautiloids. Those are those creatures that have the long cone-shaped body.
They're like a squid.
Kind of like a squid. Mm-hmm. When they find them, they're all oriented in the same direction. Now, I don't know if they had a compass in them or if they had like this magnetic field and the Earth just kind of automatically did this, but possibly, Ben.
So you're saying they all died and were fossilized, oriented, all going the same way?
All going the same way. I'm not making any absolute claims
I think
here.
They sent a text message out to everybody.
To tell them which way to die.
Point this way when you die. Or maybe it was water rushing
Possibly.
through.
Possibly a flood is what did that one. Possibly.
The time gaps, Eric. Every layer that was laid down, it's supposedly laid down and then millions of years transpire. So you would have plants growing up, rivers cutting.
Of course.
None of that exists between the gaps. There's no time gaps.
Between the layers, yeah.
Between the layers. It was like they were laid down
sequentially, one on top of the other right
very
away.
quickly.
Very interesting. Hey, not only that, it's possible, by the way, it's possible that was done from a
flood. Lay down quickly.
Hey, not only that, we have an entire mile of strata that is totally missing.
It's gone.
From the Grand Canyon. When we go visit the Grand Canyon, you will see it with me. If you go with me, please come with me. You'll see the Grand Staircase. This is where you will notice that there was over a mile of sediment that was on top of where you stand and look down inside the Grand Canyon. There used to be a mile of sediment on top of that, and that was washed away in what could have been a catastrophic event called...
Evolutionists have no answer for where that went.
It's
gone.
Totally
It disappeared, and I have an answer.
You do?
Harry Houdini lived billions of years ago.
That's it.
And he made it disappear.
It's Harry Houdini's fault.
Boom, it's gone.
Wow. Well, I would call Harry Houdini a flood.
I hope you guys enjoy that and join us at the Grand Canyon.
Us?
I'm not coming.
I'm
speaking somewhere that week,
you're there.
unfortunately.
You're okay.
I would love to go. Question from Daniel, though.
Hey, by the way, if you want more on the Grand Canyon, make sure and check out creationtoday.org. Search Grand Canyon. Got lots of great stuff.
You've got a Creation Minute on that.
There is a Creation Minute on the Grand Canyon, yeah.
Question from Daniel. He says he's a skeptic, and he says, how can you believe some of the ridiculous things in the Bible? And he actually goes on to list of a bunch of them. One of them, he says, is how can all those animals fit in the ark? Well, good question, Daniel.
You know, I would say there are some ridiculous things in the Bible if you reject God. I mean, the
Right,
idea of a
course.
man walking on water is ridiculous
Right.
if you reject God. Walking around a city and the walls falling down is ridiculous
Without God.
without God. This idea, though, of the animals on the ark, here's what I find. Most skeptics don't really want an answer. And that's just kind of where they're
not-
looking for a way to reject the Bible.
But let's assume Daniel is looking for an answer.
If you're looking for an answer, there are good answers. For example, how many animals would have been on that ark? That's something a lot of skeptics don't know the answer to.
What's the
They assume millions of species, so millions of animals.
What's the word that starts with a B?
baraminology.
Yeah, I love that word.
Brand new study.
Baraminology.
That's a good one. That's a brand new study. The baramin is the original created kind. So they're tracing all the animals that we have today, the varieties that we have today, and saying, what were the originally created kind? Like all the dogs, tracing it back to just 2 dogs. And saying, okay, if there were just 2 dogs on the ark, not millions of different kinds, and just 2 horses instead of horse, zebra, donkey, all those back to the original kind, we find that there were only about, less than 8,000 different original kinds of land-dwelling animals.
So we're only dealing with 8,000.
Times 2 is 16,000, average size, smaller than a sheep, on an ark that's 450 feet long, 50 feet wide, 75 feet tall. No problem. He could fit all of them on the first floor.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned size. Only 11% of the animals on the ark were over sheep size.
Wow,
which is
that's
interesting.
pretty small. Oh, and by the way, to prove it, Answers in Genesis is building the ark. That's
That'd be
happening.
cool. I can't wait to see that.
It's really going to be cool.
And
They're going to
will
have the
be cool.
animals on there.
Hey, if you want some more information, if you're really looking about how all of this happened, go to Paul Taylor's book, Don't Miss the Boat. He
Great
also
book.
has a DVD.
Yeah.
So-
Now, Ben, I got to apologize. Last week, I felt kind of bad because I kind of dissed you for a shameless plug for your Twitter. So I thought this time I'd go ahead and
Eric,
throw you out there. You need to follow Ben at Ben Shetler.
Thank you
okay?
for being
Just
the
go ahead
bigger
and
man.
do that.
And I want to encourage all of our listeners to follow my good friend
man.
at Eric Hoven. That is what that says right there. Make sure you follow at Eric Hoven. I don't want you to get it wrong.
And at Creation Today, of course, is
Yeah.
a great one to follow on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube, all those other places. That's fun. Well, hey, man, I enjoyed this show. This was a
I
fun
enjoyed
show,
it as
man.
well. It was good.
Great.
I liked
You
it. I
really
thought
want
was-
that Ben Shetler up there really bad, don't you? Really, really bad.
Yeah,
Hey,
it
where
happens.
would you rather go? Would you
Okay.
rather go to the finest restaurant in the world, or would you rather go hear some of the most amazing speakers on creation deliver truths that you've never heard before?
Finest restaurant in the world? No, I would rather go to one of the things. And
What if we brought the two together?
Ooh, now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
that's my-
Maybe there'll be good food at some of these events.
Yes.
And we've got a list of them at Creation Today.
I love how we just kind of include everybody on that list. Well, not every single creation.
As many as we can, though. Yeah, we got a lot of great creationists that we include on the list.
Do you need the tools to defend your faith? Visit our websites for up-to-date content. Attend one of our live events. And shop online at creationstore.org. We are Creation Today.